South Africa need 69 to win. They've got 8 wickets in hand. It sounds a very straightforward task facing them tomorrow. Firdaus, I've been monitoring your heart rate all day.
Okay, what have you got?
Well, I think you're quite steady this evening.
I am. I've had Barbados 1992 mentioned to me about 8,000 times already. South Africa needed 79 on that occasion.
Good. The unfortunate thing about that was the press releases that went out that evening from Ali Bakr expressing sympathy to the West Indies for the state of their game.
Okay, no press releases going out tonight, I can tell you that.
Don't do it.
It does seem straightforward, but I still think you can lose wickets in a clump, especially in the morning and especially against a turning ball and especially with Nathan Lyon bowling at you. So I don't think South Africa will sleep easy tonight. I don't think the fans will. On paper, in theory, it should happen because they've still got good batters to come. Tristan Stubbs, David Bedingham, Kyle Verreynne, Marco Jansen can wield a bat. So there is a lot to come, but I do think that tomorrow morning there will be probably one more twist, hopefully just one. I don't think we can deal with more than that.
It's interesting looking at these games from a sort of really impartial perspective, isn't it, Stephen? Because we can just sit back and if we're looking at that game and the scenario required tomorrow, we'd be saying to Firdaus, what are you worried about? This is game over, isn't it? Or is it not?
Well, you do just feel as though a lot relies on what is happening overhead. The only concern for Australia is the fact that their ball is 56 overs old. So even if the overheads do come tomorrow, unless they can do a miraculous ball change like England at the Oval a few years ago against Australia, it does feel as though that ball, even under lead in the skies, might not zip around with the same ferocity that it did do when it was new, when we saw both of these bowling attacks with fresh legs bowling with them over the course of the previous 2 days. But it does just feel as though there might be one more twist, but I would say that the odds are heavily stacked in South Africa's favour.
It's going to be humid tomorrow morning. There's some big storms around tonight. I think some fresher air will probably come in by the sound of it, but you never know. It might just do a little bit. Don't pull that face.
No, you're just saying things that are making me pull faces.
Don't pull that face. Let's talk about the captain first of all. I mean, it's a huge occasion this for him, obviously, and we talked a lot about him yesterday, didn't we? Actually, but it came out. He was dropped on 2, did his hamstring on 9, and he's just kept going. I mean, I suppose he could have stopped at T and had some treatment and sent someone else out there, but he's clearly determined to get his team over the line here.
Yeah, it's not the first time. I mean, Temba Bavuma played the 2023 World Cup ODI semi-final with an injured hamstring and actually said at the toss, I'm not 100% fit, which probably wasn't his best move. I think this time he's not going to be saying anything about how he actually feels. The other concern, I think, and I wonder what will happen tomorrow morning, is it has been confirmed as a hamstring strain, and I don't know how good he's going to feel tomorrow morning about batting. It might just seize up a little bit. He couldn't stop. I think if it stopped today, he couldn't have come back on had there been a collapse. He had to keep going. And there were moments when it looked a little more comfortable, then he'd hobble, then a little more comfortable, then he'd hobble. But this is the kind of guy he is. He's extremely stubborn, yes, and extremely determined. And I think this is, I don't think, it is the biggest moment of his career. He wants to be there at the end, because I think only then will people say this is Bavuma's team. He's finally taken control. And, we forget, he's been their leading run scorer in the cycle, leading run scorer for the last 6 years, main contributor with the bat. It would probably be ideal if he doesn't get a century, and I don't think he will, and then is still there at the end, because that's what he's known for, these gritty little knocks, 50, 60, 70. That's Temba Bavuma in a nutshell.
Yeah. I just wonder if South Africa did miss a little bit of a trick, in that they've got 69 left. If they had scored perhaps another 20 runs there, I'm not saying they would have won the game in the last 8, if there's extra 8 overs you can add, but if they'd scored another 30 runs in those 8 overs and really made it a very small, because those bowlers are tired. The flow is with South Africa. I know there's obviously a little bit of a gamble involved in pushing on just a little, but 20 runs is probably all it would have needed for them to say to the umpires, hey, come on, let's have the extra half hour.
Yeah, I think that would have been a very fine balance to find there. I just think they showed confidence and belief in themselves by playing in the manner that they did and not pressing their foot on the accelerator. It just felt as though South Africa were in complete control of the situation there. Watching that evening session, they never looked rushed. when they did have to soak up those few overs where Australia brought Webster on, they had Lyon whirling away into the rough from the pavilion end. They didn't feel as though they needed to try and burst the ball through the infield, which is what could have got them caught and what could have sent panic through the dressing room. So actually, by not taking those risks to push the game forward and win it this evening, I felt as though they showed a lot more calmness than maybe they would have done had they started to try and push things on. So I think credit to them for playing it in that manner.
There was a famous test match in Melbourne in which Steve Ward did precisely that and then lost the game.
Yeah, it just feel like if you gave Australia a sniff
Yeah.
in that situation, they're so experienced, those bowlers are so good that you would just find a little bit of energy if South Africa had have left that door just a bit ajar, and they did nothing of the like this evening.
Aidan Markram then, Firdaus. He's played some terrific shots there. I mean, I really loved his offside play, actually. Give himself a little bit of room against when Lyon dropped just fractionally short, a little bit of room, bang, very square through the offside. I mean, that's his 800, but I wonder how he would rank this one amongst his others.
Yeah, I mean, this would be the absolute best. He scored a good 100 in 2018 against Australia. It was a second innings 100, which Ali Bakr at the time, in fact, I remember him calling me up saying, you've got to write a story saying Aidan Markram is going to be South Africa's next best batter. I think I did it as well because it was Ali Bakr saying so. But he dropped off from there. He was dropped from the test side. He's had to come back. He's last scored 116 innings ago in the Newlands Test 2024. So this was a long time coming. The celebration, I've never seen Aidan Markram so emotional. Bavuma actually hung back and let him salute the sky. I don't know if there's been something in the family or something along those lines. And he was crying for sure. So this matters to him more than anything. He was the under-19 captain when South Africa won the Age Group World Cup in 2014, and he's been their T20 captain, and he's seen them lose a final. And I think Aidan Markram is a steep competitor. He's won the SA20 twice as the captain. All he wants to do is win, and he doesn't care about anything else. And I think you saw that in him today.
Andy, what have you got on Mark?
Well, it was quite an unusual innings for him. He had just 4 boundaries in his first 50, 11 in his century. Much the lowest boundary count he's had in 100. His 8th Test 100, third against Australia in just the 5 tests he's played against them. That brilliant series that Firdaus referred to early in his career. But in 4th innings, it's the third 4th innings 100 he's had. That one against Australia, Firdaus mentioned there was one in Pakistan as well. The other 2 haven't led to victories. Although at the time he puts Africa in a position where they could have won. And the list of players who've scored 3 4th innings 100 is short. He's the 15th player on that list. And some of the great names of batting: Herbert Sutcliffe, in towards England great, Don Bradman, and then more recently Jeff Boycott, Sunil Gavaskar, Gordon Greenidge, Graham Gooch, Sachin Tendulkar, Ricky Ponting, Mahela Jayawardene, Yunus Khan, Ramnaresh Saran of the West Indies, Graham Smith, the only other South African on the list, Kane Williamson and Ben Stokes. So it's a really exclusive club to be in. He's been a really interesting player and had fluctuations in his career, but this was the best day of his cricketing career, certainly.
And while you're on, we talked obviously about all the wickets that fell in the first 2 days. How does today's add up then?
Today's tally was 276 for 4 in 81 overs. So a wicket every 20 overs, basically, and that's including the one of Nathan Lyon right at the start. The previous 2 days, we'd had 28 wickets in 154.5 overs, a wicket every 5.5 overs, 17 runs per wicket on the first 2 days, 69 runs per wicket today. So, yeah, rather extraordinary
contrast on the third day as well. I mean, you would expect... anyway, does it surprise you? I mean, you haven't been on here the first couple of days, Steve, but... I mean, there has been some different bounce. There's no doubt about that. It is quite a 2-paced pitch, and the ball is now starting to spin. But only 4 wickets fell. I mean,
it's surprising when you look at it on the face of the first couple of days. But when you think about bowling here at Lords, when it is sunny, the pitches are very slow. So it's not like you can go to a barrage of short pitch bowling, because that's not going to trouble good players, and it's a waste of energy. So I thought both attacks actually today, South Africa in the first part of the day, and then Australia looked really tired. I think they just looked exhausted. Definitely. And to come in off the back of bowling 4 overs a game in the IPL and topping that up in between with a few overs in practice to try and build some sort of workload to make you test match ready, none of the players would have been able to come into this match fit whatsoever. And I think actually the course of the days probably suggested that too.
Well, but also the speed of the game shows that. And again, Andy, over rate wise. I mean, haven't got near to completing 90 overs in a day in any of these days, have we?
No, we lost 9 overs today. We lost 9 on day 1 and 12 on day 2.
That's a lot of the game.
It's a lot, yeah.
In 3 days, all those overs down already, and that again, I think suggests that they're just not test match fit.
And like people look at it and think, oh, but why can't they just whiz through their overs? I cannot describe how mentally and physically exhausting a day of Test cricket is, especially if it's a final, as this is, and there's a fair amount on the line. Everyone wants to win, and just being engaged in the game and the pace of the game in the first 2 days. I mean, they were shorter days, but a lot happened in those days.
Right, let's go down and join Henry Moran.
With South Africa batter coach Ashwell Prince, and talk me through the feeling in that dressing room, because history beckons.
Yeah, I think at the moment the feeling is obviously great joy, first of all for Aiden's 100 and the partnership with Temba. But as soon as everyone got in, as soon as those two got back in there, coach was sure to make sure that the guys stay focused and stick to our processes. Job's not done.
What are those processes?
Well, do whatever you do at night. Don't do anything different. Come back tomorrow morning, stick to the same processes in terms of your warm-ups, your preparation. Obviously, it's a big day, but you don't want to do anything different just because, it can be a big day tomorrow.
Where does that partnership rank in the history of South African Test cricket?
I think it's massive. At tea time we had to make a call on Temba and his fitness. Temba was quite adamant that he wanted to continue. Obviously the coaching staff, we were concerned that it might affect Aiden and his rhythm as well if they're not able to run twos. But both of them were adamant that partnership could be the key to the outcome of the match, and so replacing Temba at that time might have meant a restart to a new partnership. So if you add all of those things to the equation, I mean it's right up there in terms of, as you say, South African history in Test cricket.
There are many that said 280 was far too many to chase against this Australian attack on a surface where 28 wickets have fallen in 2 days. What was the feeling with that target?
My feeling was that towards the end of play last night and the passage of play this morning, that there were good signs for us. What I mean by that is that in terms of the Knicks, they started dropping short of the slip cordon yesterday, and the relative comfort that the Australian tailenders were batting with this morning, sort of indicating that, the stats suggest that day 3 is the best time for batting. And you put all that together, those sort of things were there in terms of indication that they might be right. Day 3 might be the best time for batting. And so, arriving here this morning, I think if at the start of this test cycle, people would have said to us, you have 230, 240 to go and win the Test Championship. Obviously, Australia dug a little bit deeper and made it, got up to 282 to win. I still think you would have fancied your chances, but at the moment, as we say, the job is not done.
There have been an awful lot of very fine South African sides that have come very, very close and not got over the line. What would this mean?
Well, this would be, it would be massive for our country. Both in terms of what we want to do in terms of Test match cricket and what we want to achieve going forward. As you say, we've fallen short in some white ball competitions with teams that had very good chances of getting over the line, possibly favourites at times. But at the moment, history says that we haven't done it yet, and as we stand here this evening, we haven't done it yet. So we've got to knuckle down and get the job done tomorrow.
What about the noise around this ground? Because it has been some support that your side have had.
Yeah, there's quite a few South Africans that came over. Some of them staying in our hotel. We were aware before we left home that quite a few would be coming over, and I think possibly a a lot of the locals will be supporting South Africa as well.
What makes you think that?
Just the history between England and Australia, obviously. And maybe because there was a little bit of beef in the last Ashes Test match here at Lord's. I think some of the locals might be supporting us as well. So, it was phenomenal to hear Aiden and Temba's names being sung by obviously South African fans, but also you got the sense or the feeling that the rest of the crowd joined in, and it was goosebumps sitting up on the balcony listening to that, and I'm sure for them out in the middle, you as a batter, you're kind of locked in terms of what you need to be doing in terms of your concentration, but you can't miss that.
Just finally, how are you going to spend this evening? How are you going to sleep tonight?
Not sure how I'm going to sleep tonight, but it will be, it will be a normal evening. I think dinner, to bed, not too late. Just chilled out with the guys, and whether I can fall into a deep sleep, I'm not sure.
Well, many congratulations to your side on a fine day, and we'll see what tomorrow brings.
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
Now let's hear from the Australian all-rounder Beau Webster. He's with Henry Moran.
That was some partnership.
Yeah, good partnership. Batted really well, both of them. Obviously, Mark can bring up his 100 there. He batted really well, and Tembin support there. Really good partnership.
What can you tell me about this surface? Because so many wickets the first couple of days, and now it seems docile.
Yeah, I suppose a lot of it might be able to do with the overheads. Obviously, it was cloudy last night. We went out to bat, and the lights are on with that new ball. It seemed to move around quite a bit, and turning up today, the sun blaring, I don't think helped our cause at all. But, in saying that, credit goes to South Africa. They batted really well there and, absorbed everything we threw at them, and then were able to score and get himself going. And, 69 runs to win. They batted really well.
How do you turn this round? Can you turn it round?
Oh, we've got to. Obviously, in the morning, we've got to come back and, try a few more plans and whatnot, and just hang in there until the runs are up, I suppose. They batted, like I said, credit to them. They batted really well, and credit to our boys for sticking it out there in the sun. It felt like the ball went soft really early, and with that sun out, it didn't really move around as much as it did, with the new ball under lights last night. So conditions probably not our way there, but like I said, in saying that, credit to South Africa.
I don't need me to tell you, South Africa have a bit of a record of perhaps struggling to get over the line in ICC events. Can you use that to your advantage?
Oh, yeah, obviously. I'm sure the boys will be looking at any advantage we can get tomorrow. But, 69 runs left. Never know. A couple of quick ones in the morning, and I've seen stranger things happen in this game. So, we'll keep believing and come again in the morning.
What were the conversations out there towards the back end of the day?
We were obviously trying a few things there with Nathan, swapping ends and trying to get it to turn down the slope, and obviously throwing the ball to Travis and seeing if he can buy us a wicket there. But they were just too good in the end, and we couldn't get the breakthrough, and a couple of nicks fell short, and balls getting hit in the air here and there, but they batted really well, and I think both of them have almost been chanceless. So credit to the two boys out there that put on the big partnership.
Steve Smith, that was a nasty moment.
Yeah, obviously we've seen all game the nicks fall short, so us in the slips have been ultra close, and when one does take off the back foot, he's we're really close, and lucky it didn't hit him in the forehead, I suppose. He got him in the finger, and I'm not too sure the status of it, but he obviously didn't return to the field, so he mustn't be too good.
And just finally, this is the showpiece event of Test cricket. It has been some advert for this format.
Yeah, it's had a bit of everything, hasn't it? The bowlers have come hard and bowled really well, and there's enough there in the surface. And then, like we saw today, if you dig in with the bat, you can get your reward. And it's been a good game of cricket, and into a fourth day now, which is always nice.
Enjoying it?
Yeah, loving it. I would have liked today to go a little bit better, but we started off really well with Starkey and Hoff there putting on a big partnership to give us some belief and something to bowl at, and unfortunately we couldn't get as many breakthroughs as we like, but it's been bloody good fun the first 3 days, no doubt.
Rest up well. Many thanks. Cheers, Beau.
Thanks, mate. Cheers.
Well, Jim, that's gone a bit against what everybody thought today, especially with that partnership. It was the highest of the match, the last wicket partnership that Australia put on there at that stage.
But that told us that the pitch was clearly a little bit easier to bat on than the previous 2 days when 28 wickets fell. And although Australia did pick up 2 early wickets, they needed somehow to keep doing that. And sadly, probably the last real chance they had of getting into the middle order was when poor old Steve Smith had moved up a little closer with his helmet on at second slip and got one off the edge from Bavuma on 2 at the time.
Yeah.
And he couldn't grasp it. It went pretty quickly. And he
was very close.
Very close. That's the problem when this.
Whether
this
you need to
occurs,
stand that close, I'm not so sure. I think it was Finney's shaking his head as well. I think that was a bit of a silly position to be standing in. Really, you've got to give yourself a chance to see the ball.
On a county medium pacer, you see guys do it when with bowlers who are constantly bringing batters forward, looking to hit the top of off stump, and those forward front foot nicks are the ones that die in front of the slips. Not when a guy can bowl 90-mile-an-hour thunderbolts, and you know that he's got his tail up a little bit. He was getting that little bit of lift there. It seemed unwise to stand there, I think, and the way that panned out showed it.
Yeah.
There's a certain irony with Smith, isn't there? I mean, this has been one of his most prolific grounds as a batsman, and yet it's where he got struck by a bouncer.
Yes.
Yep, and it was Labuschagne who took over as the injury sub for him and made a score, which kept him in the side from then until now. And today, well, who knows what would have happened had that catch been taken.
Indeed, and it might be the last time that he walks up those steps too here at Lords, but he's got a badly dislocated finger there. So I mean, we know what Australians are like. They're not going to give up. But I just wonder. I mean, I think Finn and I both agreed. The bowlers just look tired. I mean, they've really worked hard, and whether they can lift themselves and do something tomorrow.
It was interesting comparing what we saw in the first innings when Pat Cummins took a bag of wickets. A couple of times he tried the bouncer today, and it just limped off the surface. So big difference in the conditions, and good on South Africa for cashing in.
Yeah. So they just came. I mean, tomorrow, Stephen, I'm just appointing you coach of South Africa. They've got to play the same way, haven't they? I mean, they don't seem the way they came and played there. It doesn't look like a team that's going to blow it.
No,
which is what they've done in the past.
And what you would be saying if you're in that dressing room would be, not necessarily just get through, because I thought they bunkered down in the first innings and they got themselves in real trouble just trying to survive. The scoreboard wasn't going anywhere. So looking to rotate the strike as they did, Australia will be forced to have sweepers on the boundary because of the state of the situation of the game. So my words of advice to South Africa would be play watchfully. You see through that first spell of the two big quicks who are going to start, probably Hazelwood and Cummins, Stark and Cummins. You see through that first spell, immediately as a bowling team, you just lose you just get immediately deflated if you don't take a wicket inside those first 15 or 20 minutes. If they can get through that, South Africa, they'll be completely fine. Because if not, it could be carnage.
Well, it could, but I mean, there's no time issue, is there? You know, I go back to what I made earlier about that extra half-hour bit. It's not because there's a time trouble. It's just that it's just the flow of the game, is it? And it was going their way. They just got to pick up that momentum again tomorrow.
Yeah, and I think when you talk about intent, and this is what frustrates me sometimes, people label intent as trying to boom the ball through the covers. Intent is looking to score. Intent is moving your feet towards the pitch of the ball. If you're passive and timid, you're playing from the crease, you're just looking to survive, that is an absolute bowler's dream. I want to bowl at someone who's just looking to survive. If you're looking to score off me, looking to hit the ball firmly into the covers along the floor and rotate the strike, as a bowler, you know that person's in a fight and they're on top of you, and that's the body language I'd want to see from South Africa first thing.
Andy, what have you got?
Well, just on the ball tracking data showing how much the game changed in this fourth innings, both the seam movement and the swing was down by about 30% on the rest of the game. So Australia's bowlers got much less out of it than they had in the first innings and the South Africa had in both innings up to today's play. Just a quick word on Rabada. Finished with 4 for 59 to go with 5 for 51 in the first innings, 9 for 110 in the match. That's the third best by a South African on this ground. Makaya Ntini had a 10-wicket haul in 2003, and the only other South African bowler with more than 8 in a test here was a leg spinner called Xenophon Balaskas in 1935. It's a name that needs to be shared with the world.
But also practiced as well. You need to say it regularly to say it properly.
He took 9 wickets here when South Africa won here in 1935. Rabada now has 336 test wickets and just 71 tests, averaged 21.7, and his strike rate has come down below 39 per 100 balls. 375 players have bowled 4,000 or more balls in Test cricket. No one else has a strike rate below 41. SF Barnes played before the First World War, 41.6, then Jasprit Bumrah 42. So Rabada out on his own.
Quick one for you, Jim. If Australia do lose tomorrow, will this hasten? We'd had quite a long chat at lunch, didn't we, about the changes and so on. Will that focus minds, do you suppose, or will it make it any difference at all about Australia going forward?
I'll say this with a bit of a smirk. It makes the selector's job easier if someone's injured and can't play.
Oh, I see what
so
you
it
mean.
solves their problem.
It does.
Labuschagne will keep his place, Constas will come in, and Smith will have a rest.
Yes. It's a very good point. Let's hope his injury's not that bad, but it looks like it probably was as he went off to hospital. We'll have more news of that tomorrow.